Now, from the KFDX studios, the City Council at Large debate with candidates Austin Cobb and Sam Pack. KFDX 3 News, your local election headquarters.
Hello from your local election headquarters. Welcome to the KFDX Wichita Falls Chamber of Commerce 1-hour runoff debate with the at-large candidates for Wichita Falls City Council. I'm Daryl Franklin.
And I'm Carney Porter. This evening, we're joined by Sam Pack and Austin Cobb, the two leading candidates of the three who ran. That also included District 2 City Councilor Larry Nelson.
Also here, CEO and managing partner of the Wichita Falls Chamber, Ron Kitchens, as well as senior leaders throughout the Wichita Falls community.
Let's send it over to Ron now for a quick rundown of the rules for this debate. Ron?
Thank you very much. And here's a quick rundown of the rules for the debate. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the main question, 60 seconds for the rebuttal, and if needed, 60 seconds for follow-ups. When time is up, a candidate will hear this bell. Do that again. We'll hear this bell. There are no opening statements, but each candidate will get 90 seconds for closing remarks. Before the debate, we flipped a coin for the candidates to see who will go first. Austin Cobb was the winner, and that he is chosen to go second. So our first question will be to Sam Pack.
Okay, and we'll start with our questions right now with economic development. Amazon has announced a distribution center. It's coming to Wichita Falls. What specific strategies do you propose, Sam Pack, that the city use to keep the momentum going and attract and retain businesses here in Wichita Falls?
I hope Amazon is just one of many businesses that come to our city. I want to work on building better infrastructure and better roadways and waters so that we can entice other companies to come to Wichita Falls. I believe that Wichita Falls has an immense ability to grow in the next couple of years. With our new president coming into power, he's going to put tariffs on goods coming in from other countries. That means companies are going to start coming back to the United States to build their materials. Wichita Falls, if you take the United States and fold it in half, Wichita Falls is right in the middle. And what makes it so great is that we're on the northernmost part of Texas. That means that we still have all the great corporate tax rates. We have no individual tax rates. Companies want to come to Texas. Now, why Wichita Falls? Because we have the ability to have these companies to have logistics. They can go north, south, east, and west from where we're at. So I would love to see more businesses come here. I want to entice more economic development, to work with the chamber, and to offer, from the city standpoint, more economic incentives, whether it be tax incentives, whether it's money from the 4A fund, whatever it might be, to get them here.
Okay, same question for you, Mr. Cobb. What specific strategies do you propose that the city use to keep this momentum going and also attract and retain businesses in Wichita Falls?
Well, thank you, Daryl, and thank you, everyone, for having us here. Economic development. So I think that's something that everybody in Wichita Falls wants to see. Real economic development, industry and business. So the Chamber of Commerce, they're the ones that are going out and attracting new businesses. So as a city councilman, it's our job to make sure they have the tools that they need to get their job done. Amazon is a perfect example of a company that wants to be here. There was no tax incentives given to them, to Amazon. They want to be here. It's a springboard, right? So as more businesses come in, more will want to follow. But it's our job to do more. I would like us to see the chamber working together along with MSU and Shepherd and all of our industries together as a sharp spear, going out and selling Wichita Falls and what makes it great. And what makes it great? It's our sense of community, right? We do, by getting new businesses and bringing them in, it lowers the tax burden on residents. If we want industry to come in and we want things fixed and our quality of life to go up, we have to start driving industry and driving new businesses here. When new businesses come here, that's the fastest way to offset the tax burden on our residents and our property owners.
All right, would you like any rebuttals, Mr. Pack?
I will say, it's not a rebuttal, but over a year ago, I wrote a business plan for the city. So I'm a financial advisor, and every single day what I do is I handle budgets and I do financing. I wrote a plan for the city a year ago that explains what our economic advantages are and how to attract those businesses to come here. I encourage people to go to my website, go to my Facebook page, Samuel Pack, Wichita Falls City Council at Large, and read. There's so much little time to explain what my platforms are, but I encourage you to read it to find out how I plan to attract those businesses here. Thank you.
All right, let's go ahead now and we'll move on to our second question. Mr. Pack, we'll start with you on this. What specifically should the city do to support small businesses and its entrepreneurs?
The first thing we need to do is we need to become a better business-friendly city. There is a thought process out there that we are not the most helpful city in helping businesses get up and going, whether it be code regulations. I want to offer a more Chick-fil-A style government. We should ask the question is, how can we help you? How can we help you bring your business here? How can we help you grow your business? What can we do to make you more successful? Because by doing so, the city will become more successful. So going through some of our policies that we have and how we address some of these concerns, we need to look into. I know there's been a debate on the roads. There's been debate on some code enforcement that we need to address. I am not advocating for anyone's job or anything along those lines. I'm advocating for better customer service. That's what I would do. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Cobb, the same question now to you. What specifically should the city do to support small businesses and its entrepreneurs?
Yeah, you know, we need to support our small businesses because if we're going to go out and attract new businesses to come to Wichita Falls, they need to see a strong support system for the businesses they already have here. Part of that is, my opponent mentions his plan, but I think one of the most important things that the next councilor at large is going to do is going to hire the next city manager. That is what's going to help drive some of these changes we need. We need a city manager that's accountable, has goals, is focused on growing this city. And we need to help our city staff too. They need to be able to do their jobs and do them well. If they're undertrained, we need to make sure they're trained. You know, when you pick up the phone and you call the city, you want an answer and a timely response. But we have to give those employees the ability to do their job and do it correctly. Part of hiring a city manager is going to be putting all these pieces together. It's the final piece. It's a crucial piece, and we need to be focused on making sure that city manager is out in the public and out with the business leaders and making sure they get their support. Second is communication. I feel like the city in the past has done an okay job of communicating different regulations and codes. We need to have a system that goes out. You know, on Monday, they may not enforce a specific code, but you know, on Wednesday they will. We need to communicate that to our business leaders and make sure that they're aware of the changes that are coming. A lot of this, I think, boils down to lack of communication, and that's one thing that will improve when I'm your next councilor at large. Thank you.
As a city councilor, how would you work to address the aging infrastructure issue in Wichita Falls, in particular roads and also water and sewer lines?
That's a long question to answer. We need water. Right now, I lived through the drought. I remember when we were all afraid that we couldn't turn on the water tap anymore. As a financial advisor, I told some of my clients, you're going to have to sell your house because I don't know if we're going to make it. That fear still is in a lot of us today. Every time we hear the word water restrictions, that immediate thought goes into, oh no, we're going to go through a drought again. Our water reuse project, our potable water project, is an amazing project. It is a world-renowned project. People from all over the world are coming in to find out what we're doing and how we're doing it. We have a perception problem. We do have enough water, but if we were going to grow as a city, we need more water. Now, how do we do that without adding more burden to the taxpayers? If we say, okay, we're going to build this $500 million to $1 billion Lake Ringgold project, how are we going to pay for it? Is it going to go through the state participation program, or is it going to go through these programs that the state offers? How are we going to do that? The question comes down to, does the citizens need to pay for that? And the answer is no. How can we still have that water, but without costing us more money? The second thing we need to work on is infrastructure. I've been working on road infrastructure for the last 10 years. I've been working with TxDOT about how to improve not just our local roads, but our national roads, our state roads coming through Wichita Falls, 287 and 281. We need to make a more thoroughfare road. If we want our city to grow, we have to offer, like again, going back to my first statement, an infrastructure that it makes it easier for those companies to want to come here. So there are incentives that I've identified during my plan. I hope you're reading. I know I'm 30 seconds out. I encourage you to read. We need to focus on how to get those done. And that means knowing how to talk to our state legislators, having the relationship with the county judges, which I have already been doing for the past couple of years. Thank you.
Yes, I agree with my opponent. This is a long question and a lot to get in it. But let's just start with infrastructure, right? So we know our infrastructure is aging. My plan is to have a plan because I don't think we have a clear-cut maintenance plan. We need each department to go through and see, what can be pushed off, what needs to be done now. We're always going to have emergency situations that'll come in where we're going to have to repair something immediately. But there's all kinds of things we can do. We've got, for example, instead of ordering 20 trucks every single year, spread that cost out over several years. Order 2 trucks a year instead of 20 at one time. That leaves you extra money off to do infrastructure projects, fixing the potholes. Growing infrastructure, or fixing infrastructure, starts by growing commercial base. When we can bring in more of industry, it's more money to go around to fix some of our issues. Water security. So I deal with water every day in my professional career, and I've dealt with it with the Lake Wichita Revitalization Board. So I know the complexities of building and dredging an existing reservoir. It takes a very long time, and it's very, very expensive. So Lake Ringgold, kind of where I sit on it today, it may or may not need to be built. But if everything goes right and the city wants to start construction, everything goes right with the city, we'll probably break ground in 10 years, best case scenario. But Lake Ringgold, it may or may not need to be built. So Senator Perry, he represents half of Wichita Falls. He's one half of our senator. He is putting together a water plan for the entire state. He's asking for $5 billion. And that is going to be to create a statewide infrastructure for water. That is something we can tap into. That is something we can use to fix our water infrastructure, expand our water infrastructure. Lake Ringgold is an asset. We own 100% of the rights for that lake, so whether we build it or we sell that off to somebody else, what could $500 million to $1 billion do for the city of Wichita Falls in fixing infrastructure needs? Thank you.
All right, Mr. Pack, both of you said that you'd like more time, and it's going to take a long time to answer that. You could have 60 more seconds if you'd like. Mr. Pack.
Okay. There's a group called the Tarrant Regional Water District that has water, that has pipelines all the way out to East Texas. I think what people fail to understand is that if we have a drought again, where our current lakes are at, where Lake Ringgold's at, we lose 75% of our water to evaporation. So whether it's here or a couple hundred miles away, if we go through another drought, those lakes will also be depleted. We need to diversify where our water is coming from. We need to work hand in hand with these entities that have the ability to bring water here. So that no matter what happens, we have the ability to turn on a tap and we still have water.
Okay, Mr. Cobb.
Thank you. Like I said, the state is going to be setting aside billions of dollars for water infrastructure. It's something we need to tap in and use, whether it's with Tarrant County or a different plan with a different community. The goal of that plan is to connect some rural water districts, which we are a rural water district. So we're not just sitting on an island by ourselves. And part of this perception is that we're going to run off. It is a perception. I think we did a bad job of bragging on ourselves. Some of the things we did with the reusable water plant, it was life-changing. It was an amazing technology feat that was accomplished right here in Wichita Falls. We need to be selling ourselves more, not with just water, but as a great place to live and a great place to raise a family. We have to turn off the perception and the negativity that runs in this community and flip it and be proud of where we live and who we are and fix our problems together.
All right, thank you both for that. Let's move on now to our next question. Mr. Pack, how will you ensure that public services such as waste management and emergency services meet the growing needs of the community?
We have to look at where we currently are at right now. So as a finance advisor, the things I look at is what are your incomes, assets, liabilities, and expenses. When I look at our city, which I've been studying for the last couple of years, I see a growing problem in our people. There are a lot of people who have the ability to retire in the next couple of years, whether it's a street department or police department or fire department. The question is, how are we going to maintain those assets, those people, those personnel that keep our streets safe, that keep our streets covered, and that put out fires, and that puts water into our households. We need to do a long-term study about what our current ages are in those departments, and what are we doing to make sure that we attract those new people to want to come into those career fields. If we don't, my biggest fear is there's going to come a time, and it's happening right now with the police department, that there's a huge police academy that could retire anytime soon. What are we doing to replace that? Right now we have 2 police academies running concurrently. I think There's 12 that are going to graduate. We're going to still be short about 25 by the end of the year. These are the questions we should have addressed years ago. So we need to stop being reactive. And a lot of times what we're doing right now is we're reactive to the problems that we should have looked at 10, 15 years ago. So we need to look at what our current assets, liabilities, income, expenses are.
All right, and Mr. Cobb, same question to you. What would you do, what initiatives would you support to enhance all of our local emergency services and the things that our growing community needs?
Yeah, so there's a lot, right? So we have some issues, we have some problems. Our city staff, our waste management workers, our parks department, they are aging out. We have got to better pay, incentivize, and train our employees. They want to be proud of somewhere they want to work. They want to be taken care of. They want to know that their boss cares. It's about going back and looking at some of these root causes, fixing the problem and addressing them, and then planning for the future. Looking out and seeing, hey, you know, we're going to have an issue. Just like when you're at your house, you know, hey, my AC is going to go out in the next 3 years. You know you're going to have to budget for that. We have to start looking in the future and planning out. It'll save the taxpayers money, and it'll make our city run better. When we talk about emergency services, so, you know, I've had public safety one of the number one priorities since I launched my campaign, because I see where we're at, and I want to grow our city, and our city does not grow without public safety. You know, the city did a good job. They gave the police 11% raise. They gave city staff 5% raise. It's a step in the right direction, but our sister cities are still continuing to increase pay, training, and benefits for all their public safety and city workers. I mean, today, if you drive over on Southwest Parkway in Kemp, there is a billboard from Abilene Police Department recruiting lateral police officers. So it's just not, I always hear, oh, they're going to the Metroplex. We can't ever pay the Metroplex prices. And yeah, I agree. You know, we will never be able to, you know, pay somebody, a police officer, a fire department, what Frisco makes. But it's not just these major cities, it's our sister cities. They're paying and training their employees more. We have to find a way to come together. We have to find a way to find the dollars and make them work. If we're growing and we're a moving economy and people want to come here, there's going to be a lot of money to go around, not just for pay, but for infrastructure and quality of life needs. And we have to start focusing on that, because no one is going to want to live here, raise their family here, if we're not a safe city.
Okay, well, let's go ahead with the next question for Mr. Pack, and keeping what Mr. Cobb was just talking about. How do you believe that the city of Wichita Falls should address the shortages of police officers and firemen here?
We compare ourselves to Abilene. That's whenever we look at the comparison numbers. Abilene has a median household income that's 10 to 15% higher than Wichita Falls and has more population base. I would love for our first responders to get the same pay as anyone else. What the reality is, we have a set budget. We have to work with it. I want to give them all that they want, but I also need to make sure that our budget, our city continues to run. The best way to do that is to get better paying jobs here so we have a higher tax base. We need more people with more jobs, with better money, and that way we can give every one of our public servants more money for those jobs. How do we attract them? I've been working with our police and fire chiefs for the last 5 years, before I ever decided to run for city council, about how to address the issues that are facing our police and fire. One of the things I've talked about in my plan, you can read again, is doing a 457 plan. It's a deferred comp which offers like a $5,000 or $10,000 bonus per year for someone to stay in Wichita Falls, but the deferred comp doesn't pay out till the 10th year. Because I know after the 10th year, they'll have their families here. No matter whether Abilene or Fort Worth or Dallas decides to raise their rates by $15,000, if they know that their family and their kids are embedded in the community, the odds of them leaving are very slim. So we need to start thinking outside the box. We need to start helping. We need to start looking how families and how communities are made.
It is about pay, but it's not all about pay. You know, it's about training. I mean, for example, we train some of the best first responders in the state. The firefighter of the year and the rookie firefighter of the year for Denton Fire Department or former Wichita Falls firemen. We have to continue to support these guys. It's about pay. But, you know, I'd like us to see, when I say plan for the future, so the firemen's propositions just passed overwhelmingly by the voters. That's an opportunity for us to plan. You know, I think every year we get into this argument, every budget season, we've got to pay more. You know, they're fighting tooth and nail. This gives us an opportunity to start planning for the future. You know, we have a 3 or 4 or 5 year contract with some of these city employees. It lets us plan our future better. we can start focusing on growth. That is what is going to help bring in higher paying jobs, higher paying public safety professionals, helping fix our potholes, excuse me. We have to take the tax burden off our residents, and we have to start relying more on community, industrial community. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Cobb, thank you so much. Mr. Pack, back to you for our next question. Now that collective bargaining and arbitration have passed, how can citizens be sure that taxes aren't raised, and can the city come to an agreement before heading to arbitration?
That's going to depend on our next city manager. I think that Prop 1 and 2 is going to put the city's hands are going to be tied on how to approach it, because how it works is it's going to be collective bargaining and arbitration. If the city and the associations can't come to an agreement, then they'll have to go to an outside agency, and the collective bargaining will have to come in, and they'll try to negotiate what they think is best for both of us. I believe that there are chances. I hope we never get to that point. I hope that our new city manager and our special interest groups can come together and work better for the betterment of what's good for Wichita Falls. That won't cripple Wichita Falls. That is my hope. I'm hoping that everyone has a level head and does the right thing.
All right, Mr. Cobb, same question to you. I'll ask it again. Now that collective bargaining and arbitration have passed, how can citizens be sure taxes aren't raised, and can the city come to an agreement before heading to arbitration?
Yeah, so it was passed. It was passed overwhelmingly by the voters in Wichita Falls. So I see it as an opportunity. So the city manager is going to be a very crucial hire in this process. So we need to look for someone that maybe has done this before and come to an agreement that doesn't raise taxes. Because I don't want I fight my property taxes like everybody else does every year. I don't want my taxes to go up. But it's an opportunity to plan for our future. If we have a 3 or 5 year contract down the road, it allows us to plan. We know what's coming year 2, 3, and 4. But it's a fresh start. You know, we got to this situation because, you know, the former city manager, in my opinion, did not negotiate with our public safety in good faith. This is a chance to start completely over. You know, we're going to have to tell the fire association, hey, leave your egos at the door. We're going to sit down. We're going to come to an agreement that's both good for you and good for the citizens and responsible for the taxpayers. We have to start working together. This back and forth we've had over the years is not going to work. Our egos need to leave at the door. This is a brand new day, and if the city negotiates in good faith, and I believe the fire professionals will negotiate in good faith too, it's a win-win for the city. The firefighters don't want to go to arbitration, neither do the city, and we have to be realistic in what our goals are. You know, I don't think the fire department's going to come and ask for a 100% raise on day one, because they know they're not going to get it, and if we go to arbitration, it's just a waste of everybody's time. But it's an opportunity for us to come together, work together, and we leave our egos at the door, and we settle on something, and we're transparent about it, and we communicate it with the public. It's going to be a win-win for everybody. It'll cut off the flow of public safety to other cities, and it'll make sure that our firefighters are trained well, they have their health screenings, and they have the proper equipment to do their job, because when you dial 911, you want them to come to your door, and that you want them to come in a safe environment, and you want them to provide the care that you or your loved one needs.
All right, Mr. Pack, would you like any time for a rebuttal on this?
Yeah, I'm going to say something. I probably shouldn't say this, but my opponent on Facebook insinuated that I have little regard for public safety for the city. Wichita Falls is rated one of the most safest cities in the United States, which is a fact we should be certainly proud of. Regarding my support for the Fire and Police Department, I've been an advocate, a cheerleader, and a volunteer for both departments for over a decade. I have friends who serve in the Fire and Police Department. I participated in clap-ins, graduations, and event ceremonies. I've interviewed and promoted both departments on the hub in North Texas, a company which I own. I spent hours talking with both police chiefs, addressing the needs of each department before I ever decided to run. I have been for them. Literally, I have a t-shirt and pictures to prove it. My opponents cannot say the same. I do not appreciate my integrity being attacked when it comes to first responders. I'll always do what's right on their behalf. I do not need an endorsement or their money to do so. I want to thank all the first responders and for fire and police and for their sacrifice and service. Thank you.
And Mr. Cobb, would you like to respond to his statement?
Yes. So what I said was that you didn't mention public safety once in your plan. You had city workers in there, but you did not have a specific plan for public safety. What I said was I've had public safety priority number 1 in my plan since I started. The reason public safety is so crucial is because if we want to grow and we want to keep our kids here, which is one of the two things that I want to happen in Wichita Falls, we have to have a safe city. I know you support firemen, but you have constantly disagreed or opposed them every chance you've gotten. You're on record in the Times Record News of not supporting them. And just to say that, you know, I took their endorsement because I want their money, or, you know, trying to buy influence, you know that's not right. You've raised campaigns, you've sought their endorsement in both elections that you have ran.
Would you like a follow-up, Mr. Pack?
Absolutely. First of all, I and about 4 other candidates in this last election have never had an interview with the fire and police department. So we didn't seek campaign or their endorsement because we never had a chance to. But yes, in the plan that I did write down, I wrote down all city workers. And with the interview I had with the newspaper when I said no, I would not have agreed to that raise, is I would not have agreed to that raise being done that quickly and raising our taxes for that. I would want raises done across the board evenly. So to say I wasn't supportive of it, that's not what I said. It's misconstrued. If you read the entire article, it says it was a very short term that the city council came in and went from reducing the budget, reducing the tax rate to increasing it. I wouldn't have done that way. Of course, I want to give the fire and police raises. Thank you.
All right, and one last chance for a response. Mr. Cobb, would you like that opportunity?
Yeah, you know, you come up here and you say you didn't seek their endorsement. I know you seek their endorsement. I didn't interview with the fire department either. What I did when I announced my campaign, what did I do, Sam? I went to fire stations. I had lunch with the fire department. I sat there and listened to them. The other associations, I called them. I called the police officers. I went to the police station one-on-one, met with them, listened to their concerns. They all endorsed me, and I'm thankful for their endorsement. I'm trying to listen to their needs. We have to start working together, and by working together, it means going and having these conversations that are hard. And then it's my job to, make sure that, they're negotiating on their side in good faith. We can't just, oh yeah, the police get everything they want. No, it has to be a two-way street. We have to work together. We have to find a way to succeed because our police are understaffed, our fire are understaffed, we lose people every single month, and we have to figure out a way to support them. Thank you.
Okay, it's time now to go ahead and push on to other questions. First, though, let's go ahead and take a quick break.
Yes, we'll be back here in just 2 minutes.
When it comes to weather in Texoma, trust Texoma's Weather Authority.
And our rain chances start to increase as we go into Wednesday morning.
Our commitment is to keep you informed constantly.
Low of 27 degrees with a few flurries possible. It'll also be cold. You have a north-northeast wind.
Dedicated to keeping your family prepared every hour of every day. The KFDX3 and Texoma's Fox Weather Team is Texoma's Weather Authority. At KFDX3, we bring you the best local news in Texoma. For us, journalism is not just a career, it's a responsibility to inform. Our team is honest, and we're here to help you understand, tracking, and fact-checking every angle of the story. Because at KFDX3, what matters to you matters to us. Weeknights at 5, 6, and 10 p.m. KFDX3, your local news authority. KFDX3 is live, local, and now.
We're hard at work before the sun rises
And long after it's dark.
Well, and those sending personal best and everything. So how did that come about?
Reporting local stories that impact you.
So here's a look at the radar. We have 3 severe thunderstorm warnings.
We're always on the move, on the scene, and in your neighborhood, bringing you information now.
The news never stops, and neither do we.
KFDX3 News, your local news authority.
In 2nd grade, I was talking about how fast clouds were moving next to each other and trying to tell other classmates what that could mean. I want to do this. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life, and now I'm so happy to be able to live my dream out. My goal has always been to be the guy that can continue to help people on a daily basis. Whatever's coming for you, I want to be there to help inform you and tell you what you need to do to prepare for what's coming.
Welcome back to the debate with the at-large candidates for Wichita Falls City Council. Let's go ahead and pick back up, this time with you, Mr. Cobb. The city of Wichita Falls is paying to knock down the hotel by the falls to make way for a park. Do you agree with the decisions of city leaders when it comes to that hotel and also the future of that area?
Yes, I agree 100%. I think it needs to come down. It's an eyesore. You want to grow this community. You want to bring businesses here, and the first thing they say when they when they drive in is that old derelict hotel. I support it. I'm glad it's coming down, and I'm glad it's going to be a park. What kind of park is yet to be seen, but we all know it's in a floodway. This was all negotiated in court. We got the property from the landowner. He's retaining some of the property. They're looking to develop that property that it's not in a flood zone, and hopefully that business or idea or whatever he's going to bring there will be tax dollars that come in to the city. So yes, I support it. It's time for it to go. It's time for us to move forward.
Okay, same question for you then, Mr. Pack. Do you agree with the city's choices, and when it comes to that hotel by the falls, also putting a park right there?
I do agree with that. I think it is an eyesore, and it's been there for years, and I think some bums were going in there and stealing the copper and doing some things inside. It was an unsafe condition. It needed to be torn down. What I'd like to see it being used as is a public space for the city to use. I mentioned in the plan, like I said a year ago, that in my wish list, I'd love to put an amphitheater out there right next to the falls. How neat would it be for our citizens to be able to go down there to listen to music and have the falls in the background? People who are driving through can see that we're full of life and we have good things happening in Wichita Falls. That's what my dream list would be, to have that space being used. Not just, and I'd love to have the park too, but just it being used so that way we have other places to use besides Memorial Auditorium, which is, I know, is kind of aging, they're refixing that up, but how amazing would it be to have an outside amphitheater?
All right, we'll go ahead now and move on, Mr. Cobb. What policies would you advocate to address housing shortages here in the community?
So if we grow, we already have a housing shortage. We're going to have an even increased housing shortage, excuse me. So it's about working with our developers here. So we have really good developers here, local developers, yet we have yet to attract an outside, mega house developer in Wichita Falls. I think if we grow, that will come. But it's about working with the partnerships with these home builders. I'd like to see some kind of incentive plan with the city where they start developing affordable housing in the areas we need it, up towards Legacy, towards the east side, and working with home builders to incentivize them. Hey, you build 100 homes, every house you turn around and flip, you get a tax credit back from the city of Wichita Falls. It promotes growth. We have to work together or we can't solve this. But I'd love to see some kind of incentive program where, hey, the developer puts the money in the game and he only gets, his little tax credit or his incentive back once once that property is built and sold to a homeowner.
All right, Mr. Pack, same question to you. What policies do you advocate in order to address the housing shortages here in our community?
It comes down to economic development. If we have people who can afford houses, I promise you, builders will come in and build houses. We can offer incentives, and I know the city has some first-time home purchasing initiatives to help people with lower income that can get houses, but it really comes down to supply and demand. As a finance guy, everything comes down to supply and demand. If there's a demand here, they will build houses. If we have better paying jobs, if we can get rid of the minimum wage paying jobs and get $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 jobs here, then people can afford houses. And I promise you, developers will come in when they see the ability of us to build new houses. So it all boils down to getting better jobs to Wichita Falls.
Okay, Mr. Cobb, would you support increasing city resources to increase code enforcement that would result in the demolition of dangerous commercial and residential structures throughout the city?
I would, if we can balance our budget and do it without raising taxes. But we have to start fixing the problems of some of these buildings in downtown, east side, north side of town, because they're an eyesore to look at. But we have to start enforcing our code. We have to start enforcing our code. By enforcing our code, it lets us know that, hey, we're a city that's going to grow, we're going to take care of our residents, we're going to take care of the property we own. Even some city properties, in my opinion, are, they're run down, they're not mowed, but it all comes down to, are there dollars around for it to go to enforce these? So yes, I would like to see the code enforcement increased, and I want to see code enforced, and I want to see code enforced uniform, not picking and choosing where you're at or what part of town you're on. We have to enforce our code citywide. That being said, I think we can look at our codes, our city code and our city ordinances. We can't do anything about state codes, but we can look at our city ordinances. They probably need to be comb through. We need to go through them, find out what's working and what's not, fix it, and address the problem. But this just idea that we just see these dilapidated, borderline condemnable commercial properties that just sit there. They're on the market for way more than the property's worth. We have to start enforcing these things and either getting these buildings turned around, sold, so they can become businesses and can pay property taxes. I'd like to see the city get involved in some of this stuff. You know, in some of the cities I've lived in the past, they would go in, they'd fix up a building. I don't want the city to be landlords, but if you can put money into something and you can get a return on your investment by, you know, a building or an owner or a restaurant paying property taxes, that's the investments we need to be looking at as a community.
Okay, same question for you, Mr. Pack. Would you support increasing code enforcement that would result in the demolition of dangerous structures? We're talking about commercial and residential structures throughout the city.
I think code enforcement is very something that we need to use, but at the same time, I think we should put a lot of common sense in place. I sit on the Board of Adjustments, and like, for example, this one guy came in and said, look, I bought this house, it has 10,000 foot plat or however you wanted to have it divided up, but it was done before I got here, and according to our rules, you couldn't build anything on there. But by common sense, there's 10 other houses on the street that did have it. So we need to start using common sense in how we approach this and make sure that we give people the opportunity. So with downtown development, I've been a big advocate for that since, I think, 2012 was when I first started getting on all the committees. And I like to see that the buildings that were useless before, people couldn't get in because they didn't have the water suppression system in, and it would cost too much money for these business owners to come in and to upfront put all this capital up front and maybe not get a rate of return from that. That was detrimental. So with the 4B came in and said, look, so I had a building downtown too. They said, look, we'll help pay for the water suppression system. Because even no matter what happens, whether I keep the building or I don't, the building is now useful. And because the building is now useful, now we can start receiving revenue from that for sales taxes. That was important. To think outside the box and to help our city grow and to understand how code enforcement is being used and how to help, I think will help grow and develop our cities.
Mr. Cobb, did you want to add to that?
You know, I kind of want to expand a little bit. You know, I think downtown's come a long way, but, you know, I think we can do more. You know, there's still a lot of buildings downtown, but, you know, I don't think our primary focus, or our only focus, I should say, should be on downtown. There's many other areas in town that are in need of economic development. You know, Caulfield and Kemp, you know, there's empty buildings there. We need to be developing little entertainment zones around town, working on the north side, working on the west side. We have to start focusing on the city as a whole. I'd like to see downtown to continue to flourish because it can be the heart of a city. Young people want to come to downtown. They want to see a vibrant downtown. So do businesses when they come here. They want to see a vibrant downtown. But we also need to look at other parts of our city as well. Going through our code of enforcements, making sure that it's where it needs to be, fixing the problems, addressing the issues, and making sure that you know, these buildings don't continue to sit for another 50 years.
Okay, Mr. Pack, you have 60 more seconds if you want it.
No, I mean, I agree. I think we need to improve. I think we need to give ourselves an opportunity to grow, and I think that there's a lot of parts in this city that need help. But the reason why I focus on downtown is when people first visit our city, the first place they visit is downtown. That's their first impression. If their first impression for downtown is a bunch of rundown buildings and sidewalks that don't match up and streets that are in disarray, I think that makes us look bad. If I owned a company, I was going to visit Wichita Falls, that would make a pretty bad first impression for me. So I do think if we really want to go into this, every city, I can go more into this, every city in Texas is redoing downtown revitalization. We need to make ourselves unique. We need to make ourselves different from all the other cities. So there are different projects. Again, going back to my plan, I hope you read, I want to make us a mural capital, something that attracts people to want to stay here, to make our kids to want to stay here.
All right, let's go ahead now and switch gears. Mr. Cobb, city councilors gave a major tax break to child care centers back in August. Is that something you agree with, and do you believe it could attract new centers to open?
Yes, I agree with it. So that, just a little background, that was passed in the last legislative session, that cities and municipalities could give these tax breaks to child care centers. I met with several of the child care center owners, and they are suffering. Their costs are going up like everybody else, and the amount of money that we gave back was not that much. And I think it's something that shows that our city cares, and they support their local small businesses. I think it will help attract new ones, and it surely it's not going to run anybody else off by having this. You know, if you went to another city and opened a child care and they had this tax incentive and we didn't, that's going to be an issue. But yeah, no, I support it. It was passed by the state legislator, and yeah, I agree with council of supporting child care centers tax breaks. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Pack, same question to you. Do you agree with this?
I absolutely do. So I volunteer a lot at Child Care Partners in these child care facilities, and I see these families struggling. These are families who cannot afford to pay more than they can, what they're paying right now, to be able to go to work and keep the lights on. These incentives allow these centers to not have to raise the rates to the parents, which these parents can't afford. So it allows them to stay open, and in fact, there's still a waiting list for childcare, and that's a sad reality of it. So we should do more for that. Again, it all comes down to, it's going to boil back down to economics. We need better paying jobs. I don't want these families to not be able to afford childcare. We need better paying jobs. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cobb, let's go ahead and move on, change the subject just a little bit here. The city of Wichita Falls is searching for a new city manager, and we touched on that just a little bit earlier. Let's go ahead and expand further. What are the skills, Mr. Cobb, and experiences that you'd look for when selecting the new leader?
So I think this is going to be the biggest decision that the next council will make, is hiring the next city manager. We had our last city manager for 20 years. It's time for a fresh start and a new beginning. So the next city manager is going to have somebody that's a proven track record of growth and accountability. And what do I mean by accountability? We want our city staff to be accountable to the taxpayers. City management works for the taxpayers. And for too long, I feel like that hasn't been the case. But it's time for a new beginning. Let's move forward. Let's see what's worked and what hasn't. We need to make sure that our city manager is accountable to his staff and gives them the tools they need to do their job and do it well. They need to be trained well. They need to be compensated well so they can do your job. You know, you want to pick up the phone and you want to call city and you just want an answer to your question in a nice way. But we have to give those city staff workers the ability to answer that question in a timely fashion. We want our city manager he will be negotiating this next contract with our public safety. We have to have somebody that's going to sit across the aisle, and we're going to have hard conversations, but he's going to have to look out for the taxpayers, but while also keeping us safe. You know, the next city manager, we've got all the pieces in Wichita Falls, I believe now, minus the city manager. We've got new leadership at the Chamber, MSU, WFISD, Shepherd. We're finally starting to work together as a team, so we need to go out and make sure that that last puzzle piece fits in. It's time for us to have a sharp spear and go out and build this city and attract new industry. The next city manager of Wichita Falls will have to have a proven track record of those successes. And it needs to be labeled out in clear communication of what we expect as a council from the city manager and how he's going to get those jobs done, and we have to hold him accountable as well.
Okay, Mr. Pack, same question for you. What skills and experiences would you look for when selecting a new city manager?
I want a strong leader. I want a strong leader that's open to technology. I want a strong leader that's organized. I want a strong leader that knows how to handle a budget, especially with the House or Senate bill that kind of limits their hands. I want a strong leader that can put our past struggles on his back and figure out a way how to move forward. I want a strong leader who has a standing operating procedure of how things are supposed to happen. I want a strong leader that's not from here, that is not part of any system, of a good old boy system, that says, as long as you use my friend, it's okay. I want a strong leader that can fight against how it's always been done. I want someone who's come from a city that has proven that they can make changes. Something from a mid-sized city that says, these are my initiatives that I put down together. I see the value and opportunity here. Here's how we're going to exploit that and grow our city. That's what I want in a city manager.
Okay, Mr. Cobb, you have 60 more seconds if you'd like to address this further.
Sure. No, city manager, you know, Wichita Falls we have momentum growing. The next city manager, I don't have any doubt that we will line up very qualified candidates that see Wichita Falls as a stepping stone for their career, something that he can come in, improve, and grow this city. You know, the last two city managers we've had have been here 40-plus years. Two city managers, 40-plus years. The average, time a city manager works in the city is 3 to 5 years. You should be doing these things repeatedly. This is what drives change and innovation. Just staying stagnant for 20 years is kind of what got us in this place in the first place. It's time to get a leader who can be accountable, have a plan, and hold his staff accountable. And it's our job as councilors to make sure that plan is initiated and he follows through with it and grows this city and improves this city and works together for all of us.
Okay, on this very important subject, Mr. Pack, would you want 60 more seconds?
No, we just need a strong leader. We need someone with a focus and that can come with us with a plan, who can identify our weaknesses and says, here's your strengths, here's your weaknesses, here's what we're going to do to move forward. And not just say it, have a written document with metrics of how we're going to achieve those things. I want someone that is goal setting. Here's what we're going to do for our city. Here's how we're going to make ourselves more accountable. Here's the growth that we're going to see. I'm a financial planner. I need some document in front of me for me to read to hold them accountable. So I do agree that we need a strong leader.
All right, let's go ahead now and move on to a very important element here in our community. Mr. Cobb, Sheppard Air Force Base is nearly 40% of our local economy. So what should the city's role be in retaining and growing this critical asset?
So it starts with collaboration. You know, we've got the Sheppard Military Affairs Committee. So they're working hand in hand with Sheppard and the city to grow Sheppard Air Force Base, making sure they're taken care of. So it's up to us to make sure they have the tools they need. And what do I mean by that? So we did a trip last year to D.C., putting us in the room with military leaders. They're taking another trip here in February. These are the conversations we need to be having. They're having direct one-on-one conversations with our military leaders about the needs for Sheppard, what we want to do for expanding it. I want to be more proactive. We have to look at what our military is going to be like in 15 to 20 years. You know, my opponents focus on a drone program, which is great. You know, I think the military is going that way, but we don't need to be singled in on one idea. We need to be listening to our military leaders. Currently, they're investing, and I say they, the federal government, $100 million into Sheppard now. That's getting ready for the T7 program, which will replace the T-38s. So we need to continue to work with them and expand it. Get ready for an additional mission or an expanded mission today. Start working on those plans today. So when the opportunity comes, whether it be drones or another pilot training program or support mission, that we're ready to go. They're real dollars and they come real fast. When the military moves their mission, they move quick, and we need to be ready for it. We also need to start supporting our local industry on the civilian side. A lot of people come here to Sheppard, train here, they fall in love with Wichita Falls like we all do. It's a great place to live, it's a great place to raise a family. We need to make sure we have businesses and careers that when they leave military service, they can transfer over to the civilian side and continue to support Sheppard Air Force Base, whether it's military or plane maintenance or support or anything third party that Sheppard uses. We need to be focused on building that part of our relationship with Sheppard too. It also involves our community, partners with MSU. They just started a new program with our Sheppard military personnel where they can get training as well, but we need to continue to expand it on all fronts.
All right, Mr. Pack, same question to you. What should the city's role be in retaining this critical asset of Sheppard Air Force Base?
I think we should always be prepared. I don't think we were prepared when the BRAC came in and we lost a medical wing down in San Antonio. And that was because of political advocacy. I think we missed the boat on that. And I think because of that, the SMAC was created, which I'm a part of. My wife and I are part of. My wife went to the trip to D.C. last year. We're involved. We're trying to find out what we can do. Yes, my opponent had mentioned something about one of my objectives is I want to think 10 steps ahead. I do believe that the future of the military will be weapons and technology. We need to start embracing that and saying, what do we need to do today to make sure that those missions come here? What do we need to do to make our missions that we currently have more efficient? When I talked to Colonel Hale, he's talking about restructuring some of the missions that we have in San Antonio and across across the Air Force, about how to make things more streamlined. But it also comes down to political advocacy. I have been an advocate for Wichita Falls for the last 2 decades. I've got relationships with our state senators, our U.S. senators, our U.S. congressmen. I've had these conversations, said, what do we need to do? What do we need to do to bring more missions here? How do we grow it? I don't want to just maintain it, I want to grow it. But at the same time, as much as Sheppard is so important to us, I need Wichita Falls to grow as a city too. Because when there's Sheppard people come here and they need something for them to do. Most of them are students. Half of the Air Force comes through Sheppard Air Force Base. And the things that we hear is, well, there's nothing to do. Well, let's give them something to want to come back here and to stay here and to raise their family here. Again, that program with MSU has been a wonderful addition. I'm a huge fan of it because I believe that that will tie them here and make them more sticky, if that makes any sense. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Cobb, anything else you'd like to add to that?
Sheppard, it is, like you said, it's 40% of our economy. We're too reliant on it. If Sheppard goes away, this town is in trouble. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Continue to support Shepherd Air Force Base. Yes, we're always going to do it. We're a military community. We're now a Purple Heart community. We support our military. At the same time, we have to grow our industry, and I mentioned it just a second ago. Creating and promoting businesses that support our military personnel when they decide to leave service. You know, I just had a guy move in down the street. He came to Wichita Falls for 1 year. He's been gone 25 years, but Wichita Falls stuck, and he retired in Wichita Falls. So we need to continue to expand our partnerships beyond just Shepherd with our community, continuing with MSU, continuing with, you know, I'd like to see something with the Career Education Center too, where we can start, you know, kids that want to either go into the military or go into service. On the civilian side, where we can support Shepherd Air Force Base that way too, and continue to expand our business community as well. Sorry, thanks.
All right, final.
Mr. Pack?
Yeah.
You have 60 more seconds if you'd like it.
No, it's okay.
Okay, let's move on. You know, at the top, we flipped a coin to see who was going to go first. And Mr. Cobb, you won the coin toss, and you chose to give your closing statement last, and Mr. Pack was able to go first. So, Mr. Cobb, with your last statement, that would give you, Mr. Pack, the floor right now to give your closing statement.
Okay. My name is Samuel Pack, and I'm asking for your vote again. Having won the popular vote in November by close to 200 votes, I think the citizens of Wichita Falls recognize my genuine passion, desire, and qualifications to serve the Wichita Falls community. I'm not the most eloquent candidate, yet I know how to work well with people and how to get things done in the interest of all people. As a successful small business owner and a financial advisor for 23 years, I know my strengths are in finances and budgets, exactly what the city needs to keep taxes low. Every day, I guide people to be successful in their financial decisions. I'm highly invested in the community, whether through business relationships or the abundance of nonprofit volunteerisms. I've created these relationships for the last 2 decades through blood, sweat, and tears because I care and I show up. I was raised in Wichita Falls. My children were born and raised here too. They're adults now, which allows me time to work tirelessly on your behalf to improve and grow our city while keeping it affordable. With your vote, my focus will be 100% on making Wichita Falls the absolute best it could be for you and your future. Vote Samuel Pack for Wichita Falls City Council at Large. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Pack, thank you so much. Now, Mr. Cobb, to you. You have the floor now for your closing statement.
Well, thank you to KFDX for hosting this debate so you could hear a little bit about my opponent and I. I think we both love Wichita Falls. But, you know, Wichita Falls is a great community, and it's going to be the responsible of the next councilor at large to make some really tough decisions, like hiring the next city manager to make sure that, you know, we can get somebody in here that can help grow and meet our goals of our future. The city of Wichita Falls has problems, but they're problems we can overcome together. We have to start working together. We have to start sitting across from people you have a disagreement with and find out a solution that's best for both of us, working together to solve problems. That's one thing I will do, is promise to have an open door policy. My number is public. Call me anytime. We'll have a discussion. Some decisions will have to be made on water security, balancing in a budget. I'm an owner of a small business. I'm a startup in the oil and gas industry. I've been in the oil and gas industry for 15 years. I've managed budgets. I've hired executives. It's those skills. I work from home. My focus will be on the citizens of Wichita Falls. And I just want to leave you guys with one little thing, because I know Wichita Falls can do it. So my late grandmother always offered me one piece of advice in anything I did, and I think it applies here. It was always Philippians 4:13, which means we can do things through Christ who strengthens me. We can come together and we can fix our problems together. I'm Austin Cobb, and I'd appreciate your vote on December 14th. Thank you.
Well, that does it for our debate with the at-large candidates for Wichita Falls City Council. We want to thank both of you gentlemen for agreeing to participate, and we also want to thank everyone in the studio for joining us and for you at home for being with us.
Don't forget, early voting for this race began today. The runoff election day, it's set for December 14th. For Carney Porter, I'm Daryl Franklin. Thank you so much for joining us.